I'll just go ahead and let me first preface a couple of things. First of all, I said before that I'm going to address the issue of how to know truth over falsehood. We are we're living in such odd times, and I know that truth has always been uh, an elusive concept for some, especially if people have no real grounding in what facts are. And we're going to sort of examine this back and forth to examine what the true essence of what there. I've always figured and always understood that there is ultimate truth. There is truth out there, but we have to know what does it look like. And so we're going to address that, and we're going to go look at the word emit and falsehood, sheker, and we're going to examine those two things. And in the word itself, it tells us how to identify it. So we're going to have a little fun playing around with the idea. Truth is not based on our feelings. It's not based on intuition. Something is not true just because we believe it. I mean, that's something we have to remember. We also have to remember that most of the time, falsehood has twisted within its fabric some truth, which can be very deceptive. Now, for a moment, I want us to examine these statements. We're all going to be very familiar with them. First, there are many paths to truth. Every man must seek God in his own heart, in his own way. It sounds reasonable. Next, truth, by definition, is absolute and unequivocal. To speak of different truths is a contradiction of terms. Next, if something is true, it exists under all circumstances and on all levels of reality. There might be an ultimate truth, but it may have many faces and manifestations. Now, speaking of faces and manifestations, are expressions of a truth, not the truth itself. If one desires the truth itself, one must surrender all personal conceptions and inclinations and relate to the truth solely on the terms of truth itself. Now, which of the above statements are true? Now, we can discuss them back and forth, and we probably will during the Q&A. They just describe two different perspectives, the view from the bottom up and the view from the top down. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Imagine a group of people contemplating a piano that fell out of the sky. Now, they've never seen or heard a piano in their lives, nor for that matter, any other musical instrument. They're clueless. They live in a world in which the very concept of music is unknown. One says, that's a piece of wood, obviously. Another guy kind of scratches his head and looks. He's a cabinet maker by trade. He says, I know, this is a beautiful piece of furniture, an exquisitely fashioned piece of furniture. The next guy, who's an engineer in the group, says it's obviously some sort of machinery because it has the intricacies of a machine. Then all of a sudden, a great grandmaster musician comes from another galaxy, enters the room, kicks the door open, and he exclaims, it's a piano. He tells them a musical instrument. He seats himself at the keyboard and plays the most beautiful symphony. And then he teaches them how to read music, and he teaches them how to play and compose the music. Now, these people were each seeking the truth in their own way, drawing on their knowledge and experience and to decipher the significance of the object that was before them. And so the conclusion they reached, each was true. A piano is a piece of wood. A piano is a beautiful piece of furniture. It's an incredible machine. But they grasped only at the outermost edge of truth. This was not because their reasoning was faulty or because it was based on faulty data. It was because the piano belonged to a world, the world of music, which lay beyond the parameters of their reality. So they perceived not the piano for what it is, but a piano for as it existed in their respective worlds. the world of physical objects, the world of cabinet making, the world of engineering, they were looking at it from the bottom up. Now, then an ambassador from the world of music came and introduced a new perceptive from the top down, a vision of the piano from its, that is, piano world. Described a whole different instrument. As we can attest, truth is a sublime concept. But what does it stand on? This is the fundamental question. Are there required ingredients for something to be true? Well, the Alef-Beth, the Hebrew Alef-Beth, delivers us what we call, or what I like to call, 3 pillars to tell truth from falsehood. Observing the 2 words, emet, truth, and sheker, falsehood, as their letters appear in an orderly sequence of the Hebrew Alef-Beth, teaches us a powerful lesson on what constitutes the truth. Now, I'm going to open up a window here for you to see so you can get a visual. And tell me if you can see this. Bright, can you see that okay? Is it too small?
No, I can see it.
Excellent. Thank you. As you see, emet is Aleph Mem Tav here, and sheker is Shin Kaf Resh. The Aleph Mem Tav, perfectly balanced in all the Alef-Beth. We're going to get to the conclusion of what this means in a minute. Look at sheker. Sheker appears toward the latter end of the Alef-Beth, and it is, the letters are switched around. It says Kaf Resh Shin, not Resh Kaf Shin. So it's convoluted. It's mixed up. You're going to be seeing real quick what we're talking about. Now, with that being said, let me click out of this screen. I'll stay in it for just a minute here. Sheker is, in its conclusion of the 2 words, we are going to see where we get the foundation of truth. The letters of these words appear emphasized in the sequence of an orderly Hebrew Alef-Beth below, as we just read and as we just saw. The final letters appeared only as the last letters of the words. And as it goes along, we're going to realize that emet gives us a message in the Alef-Beth of balance, of completeness. Sheker is confusion and lack of order. Now we're going to see truth stands on one side, sheker on the other, and the Hebrew letters themselves are going to show us what it means. Based on these 2 sequences, 3 observations are called for that define the 3 pillars of truth. The first is the pillar 1, which is completeness. If you're going to take notes, this would be the first one, completeness. The letters of emet, or truth, scan the whole spectrum from Aleph all the way to Tav, the Alef-Beth, with the middle letter appearing exactly in the middle of the sequence precisely. By contrast, the Hebrew letters for falsehood are concentrated together in a small segment of sequence, conveying the impression of a half-truth or not a complete picture. Now, we all are very familiar of the concept of gaslighting and half-truths and all kinds of things that are out in the media, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem is that most aren't even fully cognizant of what is required for something to be true. So therefore, many people take falsehoods and run with them because it contains some ideas of truth. The tendency to make judgments or general assertions based on partial truths produces the worst form of falsehood. Partial truth contains seeds of truth. This is the most dangerous part, thus conveying an expression of truth when such is non-existent. This renders it difficult at times impossible to tell truth from non-truth. Now, we judge a person based on a single wrong deed or utterance, ignoring a lifetime of righteous and fruitful behavior and actions and deeds. We take part of a sentence or paragraph to slander someone, ignoring the context and the true meaning of the complete pronouncement. The book of Psalms says this, and it uses the word, or it regards Psalms as completeness, as the main feature of truth, which we have to account for observing and attempting to understand divine righteous intervention in the world. This is what the verse says, Psalm 19:10. Judgments of God are true. They are righteous altogether. There's no variance in truth. Only in this totality may one appreciate divine judgment as righteous components of that judgment. On their own, do not constitute righteousness, and only when taken altogether may these components be regarded as emet, truth. The second pillar is the correct order. Truth is going to have the correct order of things. It's just going to fall out in its proper order. The letters of Sheker appear in a perverted order in a sequence above that we just saw, unlike the correct order appears of emet. Falsehood is often generated and truth violated by placing things not in their correct order. Violating correct order can appear in all forms and shapes, and we've seen it from day to day in our lives. When two warring parties are engaged in war and we ignore the correct order of the events that have basically rolled the parties into the state of war, are all times betraying real events. However, in a perverted order of occurrence, we create falsehoods, lies, interchanging cause and effect, calling cause effect, and calling effect cause, displaying thereby an incorrect cause and effect relationship, also obscure truth and generate falsehood. When a person blames his business partner for a certain adverse reaction to his own conduct, portraying his own conduct as reacting to that reaction rather than as a trigger for the latter, he is engaged in creative falsehood. Preserving correct order is an essential ingredient for preserving the truth. Have you ever had a dialogue with someone or discussion with someone and you essentially disagree with their premise, and you're so in some way debating. You're debating the issue, and then all of a sudden that individual makes a statement that stands out on its own as being absolutely factual and true. If you're honest with yourself, you're not looking to be an opposition for an opposition's sake. You actually look at them and go, "Well, you have a very good point here. I don't know what to say." That is a person seeking the truth and not trying to create falsehoods in an argument. Number 3, this is very important, supportive evidence. Observing the two sets of Hebrew letters that constitute emet and sheker, one discerns a major characteristic that tells them apart. The letters of emet look stable, well rooted in the ground, as shown by the two legs or by a horizontal base is on the mem, as in the middle letter. Conversely, all letters of sheker seem to be shaky, not well rooted at all, sort of standing on one leg and a third of the first letter, shin, prone to swinging from one side to the other. Observing these letters, an impression is conveyed of instability, as though the letters do not really have anything to support them. One is led to the conclusion that lack of evidence grounded in reality is the main feature that distinguishes truth from falsehood, emet, from lack thereof. So if you want to know the truth, if you want to examine the truth, look at its order, look at the consistency of it, and look at, last but not least, you want to examine its supportive evidence. I know that many times in our study of Hebrew, there is the term that comes up from our rabbi or from one of us, can you source that, right? This is why sourcing is so important in Torah study. We can throw out a comment, we can throw out an idea that may contain elements of truth, nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, if we really want to examine what is true, then we're going to ask for the source. We're going to know the source. Very important part. Sorry I had that graphed up most of the time. Didn't mean to do that, but you know what? One day I'll be professional like you guys and won't do those kinds of things. So in conclusion, the Hebrew Alef-Beth teaches us that to tell the truth from falsehood, to tell truth from falsehood, one needs only to examine and confirm to what degree do the three essential ingredients of truth prevail. To what degree does completeness, correct order, and evidence permeate given descriptions of world affairs? Whenever we ask our question or ask the question, if we're examining something that seems to be quite serious to us, does it have completeness? Is the idea complete? Is it in correct order? Does it make sense? Is there some logic to this thing? And of course, is it supported by evidence? That concludes this part of my lecture. Now we're going to go into discussion. I'm waiting for a great discussion, by the way.